Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. Kentucky has long had a major and chronic drug problem. Even coroners, medical doctors, and law enforcement, though, are taken aback with what's going on now. A wave of overdoses and deaths that they've seen in recent weeks. A new and more powerful form of heroin has hit the streets, and Kentucky communities are being hit hard. Federal authorities arrested one man last week who may be connected to more than 180 overdoses in Kentucky and the Cincinnati area. In a couple of minutes, we'll be joined by the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Kentucky, Kerry Harvey. After a distinguished career as a prosecutor, he acknowledges the big challenge that is suddenly getting worse. First, WKYT's Miranda Combs investigates the increase in carfentanil, which is 10,000 times more powerful than typical street heroin.
It's a troubling trend.
The heroin has really become a problem.
How to treat the drug epidemic.
Several heroin overdoses, bad batch of heroin.
5 people have died from heroin.
They call it the heroin slump.
A dozen overdoses.
It's just been getting worse.
It's not going away anytime soon.
And the stories are getting more painful to recall.
I woke up like gasping for breath, like trying to rip tubes out of me.
And the ones that are trying to save them, policymakers,
And this danger is out there.
law enforcement,
They don't realize how dangerous it can be.
and prosecutors.
If we can't get in front of this, that is a tragic trend that is going to continue.
It's hard to hit a moving target. Last year it was fentanyl, which at the time was said to be the most dangerous drug out there. But it's not anymore.
It'd be very unusual to have a day when we didn't see any. We've had as many as 5 or 6 in a 2 or 3 hour period before.
Carfentanil, known on the street as elephant heroin, is a drug we'd been hearing about for a few months. We couldn't confirm it had reached central Kentucky until now.
So I can safely say that carfentanil's here now.
Well, that's certainly our assumption, yes.
Carfentanil, Dr. Charles Eckerline says, is 100 to 1,000 times stronger than fentanyl. The antidote naloxone can work on carfentanil, but it's harder, takes more doses, and many times it's too late.
It will work, but it sometimes requires more. And again, Narcan isn't perfect. Sometimes the patients still require intubation and ventilatory support.
This problem of heroin cocktail overdoses has forced police to go to lengths we've never seen before. Facebook posts warning people they're usually trying to bust.
People need to know that this is pure poison.
U.S. Attorney Kerry Harvey was the first to tell us about fentanyl last year. But the drug game is constantly changing, and the results are getting worse.
People are dying in our communities in record numbers.
There's no quality control among drug dealers. People cut drugs with a lot of different things. You never know what you're getting. You never know the concentration, the potency, the combination.
Carfentanil is the scariest drug yet, but that was said last year with fentanyl. Makes those trying to save lives on all fronts worry. What's next?
And there's the question. Joining us now is U.S. Attorney Kerry Harvey. Harvey, a Kentucky native who is familiar with the Commonwealth's challenges. Prior to his appointment, he dealt with healthcare fraud cases in Frankfort and spent 8 years as a local county attorney in western Kentucky. Mr. Harvey, welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Bill. Pleasure to be with you.
Well, we know that Kentucky has a long history of drug abuse and addiction problems. We're being told now that the jails are full, that we do not have the treatment facilities to deal with the issue widely. Then suddenly we seem to have this raging overdose situation going on. Victims rolling into emergency rooms and in worst cases into morgues. How do you describe what we're seeing right now?
I would describe it as a crisis. I think that's not an overstatement. This opioid epidemic, which was born of the prescription pain pill problem, which hasn't gone away, by the way. The pain pill problem feeds this epidemic, has now led us to this condition with heroin. And then we've seen fentanyl introduced into the marketplace in large quantities, and it's a perfect storm. And we're seeing the fruits of that now, and it is a crisis. We need an all-hands-on-deck solution if we're going to get ahead of this.
Does the prescription problem play into it because that is now better controlled and therefore people have moved to heroin?
That may be true in part. The way I would describe this, the heroin problem that we're seeing is a wildfire that's spreading across our region. The prescription pain pill problem is the fuel that feeds that fire. We know that about 80% of new heroin users first abuse prescription pain pills. So the pain pill problem hasn't gone away. In fact, there's still many more people that die from overdoses from pain pills than heroin. But the pain pills are now the pathway into the heroin, and I think the cartels and the gangs that peddle heroin for the big money that's in it saw in our region, because of the big number of opiate addicts that we've created with the use of and misuse of pain pills, they saw an opportunity to come into our region and make big profits, and that's what's happened.
So that is the motive, you think? That is what is pushing this along, that they see a market for a more powerful drug?
No question about it. The heroin epidemic has followed rather closely the areas hardest hit by the prescription pill problem. And there are very organized drug trafficking organizations that begin in Mexico and South America and come through a number of cities. In our case, Detroit, for example, is a big pipeline city. These pipelines are controlled by organized gangs, and they've seen the opportunity to make a lot of profit in places like central Kentucky.
This fentanyl, and then worse yet, carfentanil, where does it come from?
The fentanyl that we see on the streets is largely manufactured illicitly in Mexico or China. Fentanyl does have some pharmaceutical uses in limited settings, but that's not what we see on the streets. What we see on the streets is manufactured in facilities, usually in Mexico or China, but we've seen some facilities, a few that have appeared in the United States. And just to give you an idea of just how toxic this is, I was recently told by a DEA agent in Washington that they had taken down a manufacturing facility for fentanyl out west, and one of the signs that gave them away is just the tiny bits of this fentanyl that escaped into the atmosphere would cause birds to literally drop out of the sky as they flew over this facility. So that gives you some idea of just how potent this substance is.
And those birds would hit the ground dead.
Hit the ground dead, absolutely.
And so now we're seeing that in Kentucky in humans.
We're seeing that in large quantities, and at least in our office, most of the overdose deaths we're seeing now are caused by heroin that is mixed with fentanyl. The mixes seem to be getting more potent, and we've seen overdose deaths caused by pills. The drug traffickers have pill presses, and they've taken fentanyl and made it look like Percocet or Vicodin or something of that nature. And so they sell these pills that are actually fentanyl to somebody who's seeking a pain pill. And of course, that's just a prescription for death.
Then this carfentanil, which is, again, tell us how powerful that is, and it has its roots as some sort of elephant tranquilizer?
Yes, it's used to tranquilize large mammals. It is can be 10,000 times more potent than morphine. Its legal manufacturing is very controlled. Only small quantities are manufactured in North America, but again, I think China is a source of carfentanil. We're only now beginning to see carfentanil show up occasionally in our region. Obviously, if carfentanil appears on our streets in larger quantities, we're in for something that we've never seen before in terms of the carnage that it will cause.
I mean, heaven help us in that situation, right?
Indeed, and this is true of fentanyl as well as carfentanil. There's a big risk for first responders and law enforcement agents because these substances are so potent that they can be absorbed through the skin and cause overdose deaths simply by accidental exposure through the skin. And in fact, there have been cases where DEA agents almost died by being out on the scene of a drug bust and absorbing fentanyl through the skin and suffering an overdose because of that.
So let's talk about the effort and the strategy to try to do something. You introduced in your office last year an overdose prosecution initiative. You've been working with that. There is also a federal effort that was just signed into law by President Obama, and it's bipartisan, but it's $181 million, and many say that is inadequate to fight this war.
The legislation has a number of really beneficial components. It increases the availability of Narcan, which is a life-saving drug. It increases treatment options. So it's a very good piece of legislation. You know, the funding debate is something for the folks in Washington, and I'll stay out of that. But the substance of the legislation is very positive, and it represents the sort of all solutions approach that we need.
Mr. Harvey, you make very difficult decisions, what cases you're going to pursue, how they're going to be pursued, and what can be done to get people back as active citizens. It is often said that we cannot incarcerate ourselves out of this problem. What guides you as you make decisions about whether people need to be incarcerated, need treatment, how they need to be dealt with?
Well, this is always a challenge for us because we have limited federal resources, so we seek to deploy those resources in the most impactful way possible. And so what we want to do is to use those resources to reduce the number of drug dealers and the quantity of drugs on our streets. We almost never prosecute a possession case. We're not targeting drug addicts, people who share drugs. The people that we target are professional drug dealers who are cold-blooded. They're in this for the money, and they don't care who gets hurt or who dies. And we're looking for those people, and we're looking for people as high up on the distribution chain as we can reach.
And if that takes you out of your jurisdiction, you go there.
That's one of the benefits of federal law is we have really a nationwide reach, and we have prosecuted, for example, in the Eastern District of Kentucky, pill mill owners and criminal pill doctors in Florida, in Georgia. We can prosecute these drug trafficking organization members in Detroit, and so that's one of the benefits of federal jurisdiction.
You had a recent case in Crittenden, Kentucky. It was over the summer. A woman sentenced to 224 months in a federal prison for providing drugs to her daughter in jail, and that daughter later died of an overdose.
Yes, and those are the kinds of cases that we see that are just, you know, it's hard to fathom how a mother could supply heroin and fentanyl to a daughter. But the sort of behavior we see in these cases is truly appalling. And again, these are not just addicts trying to feed their habit. We recently had a case where a heroin dealer sold heroin to a young lady who was obviously pregnant, and she overdosed and died. We've seen cases where these dealers know they're selling fentanyl, and they've made statements to their other drug dealers that, well, you don't want to sell these drugs to anybody you care about. And so these are people that are just in it for the money. It's a very cold-blooded business.
In these cases, and some of these are state cases obviously, but cases where people are choosing drugs over their families and children, are they making decisions sometimes at that point that are ruled by the drugs?
There's no question about it. Once a person is addicted to opioids, the addiction controls their lives. It changes their brain chemistry. There's an overwhelming physical craving. They become very, very ill if they don't have that next hit of the opiate. And so once someone is addicted, they're really not acting out of choice. And I think we have to have compassion for people who find themselves in that situation. They have a chronic disease of the brain, and they should be treated as if they have a chronic disease.
Back to where Miranda ended her piece, where do things go from here?
We have a very big challenge. I think our communities have to accept that this is a crisis and we have to react with a sense of urgency. Law enforcement has a big role to play, but we will never solve this with law enforcement alone. We need more and better treatment options. There's a huge shortage of good treatment options available for people who are addicted, and we need to do a much better job of educating our children and our parents, because most parents raising teenagers today never face the decision of whether to use opiates or heroin. Most teenagers today will face that choice. So we need to do things that will equip the parents to work with their children and help them make the right choice.
Kerry Harvey is the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Kentucky. He's with us on Kentucky Newsmakers. We're coming back. We'll talk about some other topics, including vote buying, some other investigations underway. WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We'll be right back. Welcome back into WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. Fascinating discussion today with U.S. Attorney Kerry Harvey, who is with us today, and we've been talking about the drug epidemic in Kentucky. And just to finish on that, what drives the demand in Kentucky? Why do you think, as you pointed out earlier, that Kentucky is so vulnerable to this? Why do you think that is?
That is a hard question. I don't have a great answer. You know, just a few years ago, the stock answer would have been, well, that in some parts of our state there's economic depression and despair comes from that, and so people are trying to escape those circumstances. But the growth in the heroin use is not coming from those areas for the most part. The biggest growth in heroin use is among middle-class suburban young people. I mean, you're probably more likely in my district to find heroin in the silk stocking neighborhoods of Lexington than you are the eastern part of the district where the pill problem arose. This is a problem that's taken root among young people. There's the fear of these drugs is not what it used to be. I think that's connected to how we've been desensitized by the just flood of prescription pills in the market. So I don't have a really good answer for that. This is a different user base than we've seen before. It's younger people from more affluent families and more affluent neighborhoods who simply are not intimidated by the use of these horrible drugs.
Well, we'll see where it all goes. You have responsibilities in more than half of Kentucky's 120 counties. It's election season. We know that Kentucky has a tough history when it comes to voter fraud and vote buying. There have been some recent actions and developments on that front.
We did have successful prosecutions in Magoffin County, and this is a problem that we're not going to leave. This is something that our office and the FBI is committed to. You know, it's terrible when a public servant steals money or uses their office to enrich themselves, but here we have cases where public servants are stealing something more precious than money. They're stealing a fundamental freedom, and that's the freedom to elect our leaders in fair elections. And it's just in the counties that where this is prevalent are always going to be hampered by this. You're not going to make much progress with crooks in the courthouse, and we're committed to stamping it out.
Would you say that, fair to say that you're looking ahead and looking backward in those situations that may be ongoing?
No question. The work in that area never abates. The FBI has done a fabulous job in those cases, and we're committed to prosecuting those cases. And the people, you know, whether they're in eastern Kentucky or western Kentucky or anywhere in between, people have a right to choose their leaders in fair elections. That's something that a lot of our forefathers shed a lot of blood to preserve for us. And the idea that we have people in 2016 who care no more about their neighbors than to rob them of that right is just intolerable.
You have taken a very hard line on public corruption and integrity in office. A county judge executive convicted is serving time for taking kickbacks after the tornado that hit Morgan County back in 2012. Do you think the message is clear out there that tax dollars are watched very carefully?
I hope so, and I believe that's the case. People will always succumb to greed. We know that, but we're blessed in our district to be served by a very robust, professional group of FBI agents who are committed to public corruption investigations. And our office, I think, has a long, proud history of prosecuting those cases. We prosecute people at the state level, at the local level. We prosecute people regardless of their political affiliation. And so that word should go out that if you're in public office, do your job. That's what the vast majority of public servants do, and avoid those temptations because there are people watching.
How do you manage the time yourself, the investigators, your office, and allocate to watching some of these issues that are ongoing, as you said, a legacy of these problems with elections and public integrity and so forth, and then all of a sudden you have an issue that just on fire, like we mentioned with the drug problem.
That's probably the biggest challenge I have in my job, is figuring out how to deploy our limited resources to get the biggest bang for the buck. For example, on the drug issue, not too many years ago, we probably did 100 marijuana cultivation cases a year in our office. We don't do that much anymore, and it's not because we're marijuana advocates. It's because we pivoted those resources to work on this opiate problem that's killing people. In the last few years, in conjunction with our FBI partners, we've made a very intentional decision to devote more resources to public corruption cases, and I think that's why you're seeing more of these cases.
You have acted numerous times during your tenure in cases of child exploitation that can happen in many ways, including online. Are you pleased with efforts in that area? Do you feel there's much more that needs to be done?
Well, the answer to both is yes. Our staff and the law enforcement folks that work on these cases in agencies like the FBI and Homeland Security, ICE, the Attorney General's office, do a great job, and there's a heavy burden that comes with working on these cases. I mean, can you imagine every day, all day, looking at these child exploitation cases? But the resources are limited. You're exactly right. The technology we have today is wonderful, but it is a weapon in the hands of these child predators. And these cases are just appalling. It's another area where our parents really need to be aware of what their children are doing online, because these predators are very sophisticated in terms of identifying children and then exploiting and recruiting those children online. And we've seen, I think, a big uptick in what we call traveler cases, where these sick people, these depraved people, will recruit a child online, sometimes over several months, and then travel, in our case, to Kentucky in order to have sexual relations with these children. We've had people come as far as from Europe to do that, to visit children that they've recruited online, and fortunately they were met at our local airport here by FBI agents, but it's very disturbing.
And so again, you're saying parents be aware.
Absolutely.
And know what's going on there. All right, in just a moment we will wrap up our discussion with Kerry Harvey, the U.S. Attorney for Eastern Kentucky. We're back on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers in a moment.